Today's January the 5th. Coming at you once again with the Dream Team here. We have Her Highness Queen Califia. We have Brandy Foote, Chief Cook, Bottle Washer, and Court Jester, who makes so much of this happen. Thank you so much for your time, Brandy. I appreciate all of you. Brandy doesn't sleep very much. Neither do I. So we're talking about the Constitution, and this is important because right now we got more people paying attention to politics we've had in a long time. So you know what I do? I'm not going forward. I'm going backwards because this has been done to us before and it's cyclical. So tell me if Ben Shapiro doesn't describe the same thing that we just heard about the control of government from someone who reduced its size and said, man, this is going to get out of control. And we're inside of 5 presidents. 5. They're about to have their first real round of Congress, right? They're within the first 5 Congresses at that point. We just had the 118th. Can't even get a freaking leader. Listen to Ben for a moment.
Let's talk about the fact that our federal government is out of control. It's been out of control for a very long time. And it's been out of control because the federal government has essentially been restructured to run roughshod over the checks and balances that were inherent in the Constitution of the United States. And this is why I am a big believer in calling a convention of states, where we, the people, can propose amendments to the Constitution to protect the Constitution itself from the predations of the federal government. That means overreach by the executive branch. It means overreach by the legislative branch. It means the legislative branch kicking too much power to the executive, and the executive kicking too much power to the judiciary. It means Congress threatening to undo the power of the judiciary. It's time to protect the Constitution. That's why I'm a fan of the Convention of States. Can you imagine the look on the faces of members of the federal government when they realize their power has been limited?
I can visualize that very directly. There's a piece of leaked video where Hillary Clinton is in another room, and she says, if they ever found out what we did, we won't be able to walk the streets.
Probably true.
I'm not looking for violence. I'm looking for peace.
That's right.
So give me a civics recap on what we've learned so far.
Well,
was your perception of your government structure at 8 o'clock this morning the same as it is now?
no.
So what's the delta between those points?
Well, when we started looking at the Declaration of Independence in the Constitution, our government is failing on pretty much all aspects. And, we, the people, whenever a government gets, too much power or does not work on our behalf, we have the right to be able to replace it. And also, I learned through one of the earlier pieces, and I think it might have been the Declaration of Independence, that senators could not serve in the state that they wanted, that they were supposed to be biased and work in another state. So there were, yes, sir.
It's hard to build a network of screwery when you walk in the door and you're auditing the last guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so everyone's circling today about whether or not Trump is going to be the Speaker of the House. And if everybody goes to jail, then the Speaker of the House is, I guess, number of heartbeats away, less than 10, less than 5 from the presidency. So that would put Trump in the presidency because the Brunson case moves the president and the vice president, right?
Correct.
Okay, vice president, president get removed. Who's next?
The Speaker.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about the powers of the presidency. According to the Constitution, Article 2 addresses this directly. I'm going to read through the end. So the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold this office during the term of 4 years, and together with the vice president, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the U.S. shall be appointed an elector. The Congress may determine the time of choosing of the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. That is a single day, by the way. No person except a natural born citizen or citizen of the U.S. at the time of adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of the President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the U.S. In case of the removal of the President from the office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President. And the Congress may, by law, provide for the case of the removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed or a President shall be elected. The President shall, at stated times, receive for his service a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected. He shall not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them, meaning the states themselves. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my abilities, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and of the Navy and of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion or in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective office. He shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the U.S., except in cases of impeachment. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. He shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper, and the President alone, in the courts of law or in the heads of the departments. The President shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Oh, that's interesting. The President shall have the power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate. So if the Senate goes to recess and someone isn't there, he can put someone in their place. That's been lost. Shall from time to time give the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasion, convene both houses or either of them. In case of a disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them as to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care of that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all of the officers of the United States. All of them. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and convicted of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and the inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation, shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under the Constitution, the laws of the United States, and the treaties made or which shall be made under the authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors and other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the U.S. shall be party, to controversies between two or more states, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state, claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states and citizens or subjects. Pretty much everybody. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which the state shall be a party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such a place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Treason against the U.S. shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses at the same overt act or confessions in an open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts and records and judicial proceedings of every other state. Now, the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason or a felony or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered to be removed to the state having the jurisdiction of the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such a service or labor, but shall be delivered up on a claim of the party to whom such a service or labor may be due. New states be admitted to the Congress and to this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the jurisdiction of two or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislature of the states concerned, as well as that of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting to the territory or other properties belonging to the U.S., and nothing in this Constitution shall be so constructed or construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. The United States shall guarantee to every state of the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive, or when the legislature can't be convened, against domestic violence. The Congress, whenever 2/3 or both of houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states. They'll call a convention for proposing the amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses of the 9th section of the first article, and that in no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. All debts contracted and entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the U.S. under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the U.S. which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all the treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the U.S. shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all the executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. A person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in the cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and the disqualification to hold any and enjoy any office of honor, trust, profit, or under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. The times, places, and manners of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, but the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year. Such a meeting shall be the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. And each house shall be judge of the elections, returns, qualifications of its own members. And a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings from time to time to publish the same, excepting such parties as may, in their judgment, require a secrecy. And the yeas and the nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered in the journal. Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place other than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their service to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the U.S. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses and in going to or returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. You bastards. No senator or representatives shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the U.S., which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such a time. No person holding any office under the U.S. shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House, but the Senate may propose or concur the amendments as on the other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Reps and the Senate shall, before it becomes law, be presented to the president. If he approves, he'll sign it. If not, he'll return it with objections to the House in which it shall have originated. They're going to enter their objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such a reconsideration, 2/3 of that House that shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House. Now, if it's approved by 2/3 of that House, it becomes law. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays. And in the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered in the journals for each of the houses respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the president within 10 days, excepting Sundays, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he signed it, unless Congress, by their adjournment, prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on the question of adjournment, shall be presented to the president, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, of being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and the House of Reps, and according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. Section 7. The Congress shall have power, number 1, to lay and collect taxes, duties, and impost excises, to pay the debts and provide the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states with the Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and to fix the standards of weights and measure, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. That's what became the Patent Office. The Constitute Tribunal is inferior to the Supreme Court to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and the offenses against the law of the nations, maritime law, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years, to provide a navy, to make rules for the government, regulations for the land and naval forces, to provide for the calling forth of the militia, to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the U.S., reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such districts not exceeding 10 miles square. This has got to be a reference to our 10 miles inside of Washington, D.C., as made by a cessation of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States. Yes, excluding 10 miles square, to become the seat and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the states in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws to which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution of the government of the U.S. or the Department of Officers thereof, not exceeding 10 square miles. To make all the laws which shall be necessary, the migration or importation of such persons to any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importations not exceeding $10 for each person. The privileges of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or in destination of the United States be taxed thereof in ways not directed by above. I believe is the end of the next page. I'm missing a page. That thing skipped. So look, we're 20 minutes in here. This is the rest of the articles of the Constitution. I want to know what the hell is supposed to happen in 1808. What is that all about? A bunch of this stuff expires in 1808. You guys hearing me?
Oh, I hear you. It's a lot to take in, but yeah, 1808.
We got a couple of 1808 references.
Yeah.
I don't know. It smells like screwery to me. But they call out Washington, D.C., and there's going to be a government there, and everyone is going to lay fealty to it. It's in the Constitution. We got screwed from the beginning. It's a setup. The call's coming from in the house. Freddy Krueger style. Hey, Brandy, you there?
Yes, I was muted earlier, but that's okay.
I muted you because there was background noise.
I know.
I'm glad you got it chased away, so to speak. Give it my best. What do you think about what we said here? Is this what you expected? I mean, they were still teaching civics when you were in school.
Yes.
I didn't know that to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever, such districts not exceeding the 10-mile square. This is about that 10-mile square of Washington, D.C. It's going to become the seat of government of the United States and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature. We got sold out from day one.
You know what I
What?
Okay, let me try this again. You know what I found on one of my gigs? For some reason, I'm echoing.
Say,
Okay.
I'll shut on this side. I'll mute on this side. What'd you find?
I found that in order for them to get the laws of what was it bootlegging, they had to cut a piece of that 10 square mile area of Washington D.C. and give it back to the state because there were no laws in Washington D.C. So people across the street from other people had the right to bootleg whiskey, and the other people couldn't. So they had to give the whole state back to the original state. And I think that could have been Virginia.
So, you're in between 1927 and 1935, where we're just getting pounded and prohibition is in place. You know, you got to go back to there's two surviving beer distilleries in the U.S. The Leinenkugels and the had a mental fart. It's one of my favorite beers in the universe, except PBR. Anyway, but they made ice cream, and they were both up near the Canadian border, and they shipped their alcohol into Canada during Prohibition and made ice cream here in the Yingling. Yingling is the other one. Kugel's 8 months older than the Yinglings, and they both were the only ones that survived Prohibition. And they were openly available within the quarter of D.C. During Prohibition. They're the ones that led that because you could get a Yingling, you'd get an ice cream and a beer in the same spot.
Good combo.
Well, I don't know. In 1930, especially over Christmas, holy crap, you needed an ice cream and a beer. Ice cream for the kids and a beer for you. So I think what we're learning here is that this has been a setup for a long time, and we got to get back to the intentions of the original guys who said, "Hey, this might work if you all don't go to sleep."
Yeah.
True.
Okay, we're
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of our world did actually fall asleep, and especially the United States. And I think, as the deep state penetrated more and got into the CIA, and they did they put the CIA in the news. It was a narrative that they ran. And
the CIA was created by the deep state. It's part of the Big Five Eyes establishment. The CIA, the FBI, MI5, MI6. They call themselves the Council of Leaders or some bullshit. Look, they've been controlling everything since the beginning. We read that Madison sold us out and created the first baker's dozen of leaders within the deep state itself. That's a couple of presidents out. But this is the original part of the Constitution. It says here that they're already calling that Washington, D.C. is going to be the pivot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, look, let's cut it here. I like these half-hour segments. We're going to keep kicking. We got a lot of people out there looking at politics for the first time. Let's see if we can't give them a little schooling. I want to tell everybody listening, I appreciate you. Give us a like and a follow where you find us. We're just trying to wake people up. I thank my panel very much for being here. You have any closing comments? Those of great wisdom.
Well, I'm just going to tell the viewers, take deeper dives into the Constitution, take deep dives into the Declaration of Independence, see how the government was supposed to be formed for we the people, and just open your mind and be, alert to what's happening, and do some digs yourself. You'll be very gratifying for you. And thank you, Gandalph, and thank you, Brandy, for letting us participate.
And I will say, we're not asking you to believe anything. We've read you the actual Declaration, we've read the Constitution, and at this particular interval, just understand what it says. And
critically think.
Amen.
Critically think. Have a conversation with someone. You know, you start talking about Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, votes, the hierarchy of our government, the implementation of the tyranny around us that we have acquiesced to generation by generation. You're going to get labeled.
Yes, sir.
Protect yourself with a document. That's what the founding fathers intended. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Night, John Boy.
Good night, everyone.